Hi everyone, this is Ben from Let's Feed Brum with the Glow with the Flow podcast. Let me introduce my co-host.
I'm Kizzy from Hip Hop Heels, also a Glow with the Flow podcast host for your listening pleasure.
And our wonderful guest today.
I'm Dilligent Fingers, a musician from Manchester, mental health advocate, podcaster, jack of all trades.
General legend and all-round top geezer.
I don't know about the first part, but yeah, I tried to be a top geezer.
You are in our eyes, so that's what counts for today.
Thank you.
You'll always be a hero to us, guys. So on a serious note, then you mentioned that you are a podcaster. So it's interesting to hear that because I only recently realised that you were doing that. But our sort of like friendship started when we met through a gentleman named Kaja, who's an amazing producer, exceptionally talented individual with like a artificial intelligence style production skill.
Yeah.
He makes lots of drum and bass and basically murks the dance with his music. And I was picking you up from the train station with him. We started to chat and stuff like that. And the music has been really eye-opening because it's so fresh and original. So I'd heard about you through him way before I met you, and then started to get more familiar with your sound. And I was wondering why you started podcasting.
It's weird because it's it's sort of an evolution from like doing radio shows. So I used to do radio shows like back in the day, like early 2000s. So like Unity Radio back in the day, Buzz 88 FM. And then as the internet came in, it sort of evolved into doing internet radio shows and stuff. So I did a show on nwdnb.co.uk, like a website-based radio shows around the same time of like places like Bass Drive and things like that. Fast forward to now, for like the longest time I didn't actually have like a setup of my own, like a DJ setup of my own and stuff, because I had to sell my first setup due to like moving around and stuff.
That's sad when that happens, isn't it? I got so many mates who've had to sell their setup, and then it's like losing a puppy or something, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So it was like for a good, like say 10 years, 10, 12 years, I didn't have any DJing set up. And then, but as I like the last few years, say 5 years, I started getting into just sort of doing video rants. And just like something would hit me, like something would touch my soul, and I'd feel the need to talk about it, whether it was what's going on in society or things that I've learned through like going through my mental health recovery and like my mental health journey, like things I've learned through counseling and therapy. If it was something that I feel could add value to somebody somewhere, then put it out in a video form. And then the last 2 years, I got myself like a controller, a DJ controller, so I could start DJing again at home. And then all of that inspiration of doing a show and things like that started to come back. And over time, like sort of being able to convert video into audio, that sort of brought up the idea of, okay, turn like my mental health videos or like talking about life, turn that into the Viewpoint podcast. And then in terms of my music, I've got the Forward Motion podcast in there as well. So the last sort of 2-3 years, slowly but surely, I've been building both of those up into like what they are today, basically.
Amazing. So in terms of the Viewpoint podcast, tell us what your last episode was about.
So the last episode was about suffering from depression and trying to find a safe space and to elaborate on that, like trying to find a safe space to really be yourself. you know, really be you without sort of the anxiety of, you know, what other people are going to think about you, the anxiety of, you know, any judgment or, you know, the pressure of obligations from friends, family, peer, like social groups and things like that, work and things, you know, a lot of that can lead you to feel like you can't actually find a space to just be yourself, except for when you're on your own. Do you know what I mean? And it can come from different angles. Like I sort of touched on, you know, when you do find yourself in a bad place, you know, and you let it out, you talk about it, you know, you get that overabundance of everybody wanting to help, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, sort of pick you up in some way. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that can have an adverse effect where it's like, you watch, like, there's too many people wanting to help me, you know, do you know what I mean? And not enough. Sometimes it can get to a point where it feels like people are more focused on trying to help rather than trying to understand what I'm going through. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you don't need a fix. You just need someone to say, I hear you. I get you, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the answers, like, but I get you. I hear you. Just that acknowledgement can go a long way, you know? And I felt like the reason for that podcast, I felt like I'd been going through a lot of that, where I'm opening up about a lot of stuff with my mental health, with like what's going on with the music industry, a lot of things. And I'm being very open about the fact that I'm down. I'm not in a great place mentally. Like, my depression seems to be getting a bit worse, especially with the anxiety of coming out of lockdown and things like that. And everyone like, go to the gym, do yoga, do this, do that, come around, like, yeah. And it's like, it just got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I just want to be left on my own more now. You know, but at the same time, it was like, I could tell that other people were going through this. Do you know what I mean? And if I'm going through this, and I can tell my friends are going through this, then a lot of people must be going through this. And, you know, that's what brought me to, you know, do that podcast episode and stuff, really. But yeah, it's just sort of, it's not really a right or wrong thing. It's just sort of breaking down things that I experience when it comes to mental health, depression, and PTSD.
I think that's really fascinating, because we're living in a climate now where obviously it's recognized on a large scale now that lots of people do go through mental health issues day by day. And the clarion call that we hear everywhere is, you know, speak up, talk about it, don't keep it to yourself. But I do think the point that you made there is really, really interesting, because you're right. It's not about having a fix, is it? You know, it is actually about the fact that A, you can feel okay to express it.
Yeah.
But B, are you being understood?
Yes.
Because actually, even though things that happen and affect all of us, we are all not affected in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, we each have a unique response to the wave after wave of good news and bad news that hits us every day. And, you know, just like a child who grows up between the ages of 2 and 8 develop in different ways, uniquely, some walk earlier, some talk earlier. I think our emotions and our mental health is the same, and constantly. You know, you don't really know what it is that's necessarily, you know, pricked you to the point where you start feeling low, or pricked you where you've started being lifted. So it's not so much how, you know, what the answers are. It's not prescriptive. There's not like a prescription you can write, you know, like do this or do that or do that. Those are kind of general truths. You know, we know if you go out for a nice walk in the countryside, it's going to have an impact on you, but that might not be the thing there and then that you really need. You know, you might just have to get under your duvet and stay there for 4 hours, because sometimes that's the right answer. So I think that we're kind of encouraging, it's good that we're encouraging people to talk to each other and to express themselves, but I think we're also encouraging people, and I see this through constantly people contacting our organization, wanting to help, wanting to volunteer. I've got time to do this. but actually the wanting to help sometimes is not as positive as it appears to be, because the desire to help is not as great a thing as the desire to try to understand.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
Most
it can also be your satisfaction that you're, and I don't mean this to disrespect anybody who's offering help. Okay, let me just preface this. Anyone who's offering help to Dilly, to myself, or to Ben's organisation, Let's Feed Bum, when you offer help, you must also look at what your landscape is to slot that help in. Like, is the help that you can offer going to be helpful, or is it going to be a hindrance for somebody to organise your help, if you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've got 50 people who want to help and they're all going to make cups of tea, and you've only got 2 people to have a cup of tea, then it's, you don't need 50 people to make you a cup of tea, do you? You just need to drink one and have a 10-minute sit down to drink the tea, don't you?
That's it, and you're done.
Well, that's the answer then to the podcast finished. Let's press stop on the record.
Wait a minute. I'm interested in asking you. I don't know if I mean, it's a question you don't have to answer, but you've talked about your own mental health journey, and I'm sure that's connected to what you're doing now. Do you mind talking about that a bit, or telling us about the journey you went through?
What, my mental health journey?
Yeah.
No, certainly. So I've suffered from severe depression since, from what I realized through going through therapy. I've suffered from this severe depression since 10, 11 years old. And that started around the time of my mum, and I would then find out my stepdad going through a really sort of bad divorce. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, 5 children, 2 younger brothers, 2 younger sisters. But around that time, as I was growing up, I started to realize, like, there's a lot more mental health issues in my family. So I've on my mum's grandmother's side, my mum's side of the family, all my aunties and uncles all suffer from severe mental health issues. So schizophrenia, bipolar personality disorder, severe anxiety disorders and stuff like that. So with myself growing up and starting to understand levels of abuse, marital abuse, domestic violence and things like that, I started to realize, there's something a bit wrong with me, but I couldn't put, a finger on it. Fast forward to 2008, I went through a really traumatic situation where I found 2 family members dead.
Wow.
And
sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, trigger warning.
Yeah.
I apologize for that, because that kind of came out of nowhere, to be fair. So yeah, trigger warning for that. But yeah, that happened in 2008, and from there I started to realize I developed a severe case of PTSD, but also how much I was suffering from different forms of PTSD from things in my past. So then the last 7 years has just been a journey. It started when I tried to do something silly to myself. Kind of a blessing in disguise, a weird way in a weird way, because from there, that was what set me off to first make the call to the Samaritans, and speak to them for a good 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And then from there, they put me in touch with the mental health team in Manchester, put me in touch with the crisis team in regards to, suicide, self-harm and things like that. And then from there, like, that's where my journey is sort of developed. I'm extremely lucky. I will be the first to say that where I am now, I'm extremely lucky to be here. I'm currently in a place that's supported housing in Manchester, in Fallowfield in Manchester. For those that don't know, supported housing is an organisation scheme that's set up for people that suffer with mental health problems. So in a block of 15 flats, one of them being an office space for the staff. I'm living with, again, schizophrenics, bipolar sufferers, severe anxiety sufferers, all sorts of different types of mental health issues in here. It's a great organization, it's a great place, but it's only one of a handful within, the Northwest, basically, that is set up like this. And as a result of that, that's what sort of helped to spur me on to start doing my mental health videos and things like that, because I recognize that I'm in a very, very lucky, a great place. I'm where I need to be. I am where I need to be, but I'm very lucky to be in this position compared to the thousands upon thousands of other mental health sufferers that don't have even the knowledge of, let alone access to things like this. Do you know what I mean? Like I am one of the lucky few that have been able to get through here compared to the many, many that slip through the cracks and stuff. So a lot of that.
So I guess provides you with the motivation to try and speak to other people and let them know and talk about these issues, because you've been helped. And obviously, you want to pass that on to the untold numbers out there that may not have had the help that you had. Can I ask you, at what point did the music come into play for you, and that you recognised that there was a journey for you there in that as well?
Come into play. I like what you did there.
I like that. I laugh because I always joke that excuse me, I always joke that I kind of didn't have a choice where music was involved. My mum went into labor when she was at a dance, and she was doing a dance routine with her friends and stuff, and she got a bit too excited, and her water's broken. Here I am.
So you were an extra guest at the dance?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, did you pay on the ticket, or did you just sneak in through the gate?
I was plus one. I was plus one. I was plus one in the belly.
How does that work with the guest list then? Are you like, is it your mom's name, or were you like the Dilly plus Dilly, or was it just like plus one? Did she know that you're a boy at that point?
Like Munchie, it would be Munchies plus Lily. Munchies plus Lily back in the day. And that used to be my nickname back in the day. But yeah, no, according to all my friends and family, as far back as I remember, and according to my mum, do you know what I mean? I've always been attracted to music. Like as a kid, I'm always dancing, always moving. I'm always next to, the big sound system speakers, because my stepdad used to run sound top of top, and stuff like that. Like my mum's like, all music was always on in the house. Do you know what I mean? And like my mum just gravitated to the fact, like she knew that like I was going to be involved in music in some way.
Wow.
Always just encouraged it. So, at 6 years old, 7 years old, I joined a African drumming troupe.
Oh, wicked.
Wicked. And stuff. So I'm with all the like Rastafarians, the like tribesmen and stuff like that, learning African drumming. I actually did a concert at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester, which was aired on BBC Two, I think, at the time. I think I was like 8 years old, 9 years.
Wow. So you've been like high flying since day one.
I wouldn't say high flying, but there's like loads of like weird like connections. Like I used to live around the corner from like Cleopatra, and like my mum and their mum were like best friends. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like so. Like Cleopatra from back in the day, like Cleopatra coming at you, and do you know what I mean? I went to school with them. Cleo was my first kind of girlfriend in primary school and stuff.
What? So hang on, when you said Cleopatra, I thought you meant the Queen of Egypt. We're talking about the pop acts, aren't we? Sorry.
We're talking about the pop acts, yeah.
He doesn't look quite that old.
Yeah, like we're talking about the pop acts from Manchester, like Mr. Zip, who was on Britain's Got Talent with the Where My Keys, Where My Phone. He used to teach us how to dance when we were kids. In my side, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, my mum, like I said, my dad used to run sound. My mum used to be on the radio back in the day, Monday Munchies, playing roots reggae, roots and culture.
No way.
Like we all sang in the church choir. I used to play the tambourine and things like, and then in school, I put it this way. I won the school talent show 3 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like production, like Mr. Jackson, my music teacher, he saw that like I was so attached to music, so he would just let me in the studio and just leave me to just create throughout like all my school.
Fantastic.
You know, like I'm thinking back. It's a long time, like 30 years, but there is a lot that I've done. I just don't really shout about it that much. But looking back, like little things, like my mum used to like teach us dance routines to like the MC Hammer movies.
Oh wow. Did you get some baggy trousers, and did you wear your pajamas and draw the drawstring and pull the cuffs up over your ankles up to your knees?
Yep. We would at some points we were like, me and my younger brothers and sisters were basically the Manchester's version of like the Jackson 5. Like we were just so into music that much. Do you know what I mean? Like both my younger brothers like produce, they're both like grime artists. Like my sisters can sing. Oh my god, my sisters can sing. My mum can sing.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
So
like
you've
surrounded by it. Like,
so you've just it's been there all your life then, really. So
Oh,
from the, you know, when your mum's waters broke to this day, you've been immersed in music.
He was hearing the music thinking, what is this? I need to get out and check this sound out.
yeah.
So can I ask then, so has music then always been somewhere that you've headed for when you're dealing with like the feelings that you have, and it's, so you've had a kind of go-to, but was there at some point, was it kind of a subconscious thing that you just kind of would go along to, you know, with the dancing, the music, the performing, or did you actually know in yourself that that was good for you?
Good question.
I'd say the second one. I'd say I just knew it was good for me, like, and that was it. Like anything else that was good that would come from it, that was a bonus. Do you know what I mean? As long as the creative part of it made me feel good, then it didn't matter. Like even to the point where I try and advise like anyone who's getting involved in music to fall in love with every piece of music that you make. Fall in love with it, because then at that point, it doesn't matter whether other people like it or not. As long as you love it, that's all that matters. Do you know what I mean? And that was the thing that I held on to. It was reinforced from like advice from elders and, you know, people more experienced than me. But like, yeah, like I love every piece of music, every lyric that I have written. It means something. It means so much to me. Like another beautiful quote that I was told growing up, and it came back to me recently from a friend, is art is how you decorate your home. Music is how you decorate time.
Wow.
Beautiful quote. And I think that's what stuck with me throughout all of it. Everything that I've done represents a specific point in my life that I've gone through. Do you know what I mean? And that's why it all means so much to me, to the point where chasing the fame or the notoriety or anything like that has just never been a thought for me. It's chasing the art itself, like meeting somebody else that creates. What can we create together? Do you know what I mean? And things like that, like what stories can we tell through, you know, trying to like being inspired by each other and then trying to put that into song, whether it's lyric or just instrumentation. Like yeah, that's been, and throughout that, that's what's sort of reinforced trying to keep tabs on my mental health, because all of my songs are my diaries basically. Like, I'm not good with just writing something down for the sake of it. Like, I feel like if I'm going to write something down, it has to mean something and go somewhere. So I just put my life in my music. Like, my music is my diary. If you really want to know about the inner workings of my mind, listen to my music and you'll find it all there, you know. And it doesn't matter whether it's on trend, whether it's commercial. Like, no, that's not what it's about. It's just about creating the art, and that's what's helped keep music is like my safe space, my spaceship that I can just fly away in and just get lost in myself. Do you know what I mean? And stuff. So yeah.
That's absolutely fascinating, because what that brings to my mind is, you know, particularly those quotes about art and music and love what you're doing. It seems to me that what that's actually doing is you're trying to make a context for yourself as an individual in the universe.
Yes.
You know, because all around us, the messages we get, there's a lot of comparison going on: how you look, how you dress, what you eat, who you socialize with. And we're constantly, and as children this happens, isn't it? And children can be cruel to each other, you know. Where we're constantly like tearing people down for not being the same. And I mean, if you love what you produce, I mean, that's really saying love yourself, isn't it? And, you know, and I love that quote. You're right. It's a beautiful quote about music. Then you are decorating your own timeline. You are, so what you're doing is you're creating your own path. But not just that, you're allowing it to exist alongside all the other billions of paths.
Yes.
And you don't need to compare.
Yes.
Because, you know, each person has got their own journey. And so maybe that is something that is a kind of consequence of this, the way we can communicate now with everyone across the world, like in 10 seconds. And it's like, it's so, we're in a sea of just being able to compare ourselves with other lifestyles. And what that does is unless we have that feeling, we have to push ourselves up. Oh no, they look better, or they're more successful, or and that's just going to diminish your own sense of self, isn't it? You know, if you live there, if you let your spirit live in that place, it's going to just drag you down. So it is about recognizing that I mean, even if you don't have value to any other person, you have value to yourself.
Yes.
Because you exist, you know, and you have connection with whoever you might encounter that day. When you walk out that front door, with some people who's in your house, you know, so you give value to your own context. And that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
It's interesting as well, because it was you kind of gave me a light bulb moment when you said, like, in effect, I'm you know, I'm loving myself by like loving my music, and I never really saw it that way until now. Like, is it in effect that is what I am doing, because the music is a byproduct of me. It's me. It's me. But because of, you know, my depression, because of the insecurities and the sort of disconnects that I have with myself, do you know what I mean, to myself, to put that into context, you know, because of the way that I was conceived, you know, I've lived my whole life until recently, you know, just resigning myself to the fact that I'm a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. So if anything good comes, then it's a blessing. It's a blessing. That's it. Like, do you know, but I'm not supposed to be here. Do you know what I mean? I'm a mistake. And it was more on the more negative side. Do you know what I mean? I would used to look at things like that. So in that sense, I would never feel like I would deserve anything, including love. Do you know what I mean? But if love came to me, then I would cherish it. I would try and hold on to it to a fault, a lot of times. But I never felt as if I was really deserving. Do you know what I mean? But because music, because the music is me, that's the purest form of me letting myself out, and people appreciate that, then that's why I would love. I'm saying it because it's me, the purest form of me that's coming through my music. Then I would love my music. I'm still trying to detach the music from myself, but I would love the music, and as like I would appreciate when other people would love the music as well. It's only now that I'm starting to really make the connection, and also solidify that with everybody else, the wider world, that my music is me. I am my music. We are one in the same. Do you know what I mean? Like there is no disconnect from that. I suppose from like what you're saying there, Ben, like ultimately, yeah, like through that I am learning to truly love myself. That's weird for me to actually say it, but yes, that's actually what's happening.
It's like having this like chance to chat about these things. You know, you don't normally have this, conversation unless it's you know, I don't know, it depends on if you're with certain people, it might come up or whatever. But we've made the podcast series all about, how MCs use their music, MC culture, spitting bars to express themselves, their identity, proclaim who they are, self-author your narrative, rewrite events, process things, what processes they go under, we want to share, because the whole package, it's like a pot of gumbo or a pot of stew.
Yeah.
But the form, the genre, I'm going into a metaphor here. You've got like the form, the genre, poetry, rap, rhyming, American poetry, rhythm and poetry.
Yeah.
You're able to do all these things with it and through it, where it strengthens your sense of self and who you are.
Yes.
Whatever route you take through, whether you're talking about the past or processing emotions or sharing a story. But the funny thing is, so many artists let go of something creative and then they shun what they've made, don't they? And say, oh, it wasn't good enough. Oh, it's not finished. I've got to add more before I can let it out to the world. And what you've just said really struck me, because you were talking about giving love to what you've created. And it didn't sound like you were going through those types of self-critical, hyper-critical processes, denouncing the quality.
I feel like I'm an anomaly, because I never felt like that. I've never, like, I hear people say like, oh, I was working on something last night, woke up this morning, I hate it. It sounds rubbish. And I'm like, how? Like, how have you got to that point? Like, what happened when you went to sleep to when you woke up? Like, did a gremlin come in and just like mess with all the words on all the faders and stuff? Like, it just I can't even bring myself to, like, not even bring myself, just the thought process just doesn't.
Right.
I can't even think of a thought process that would lead you there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think I mean what we were talking about is, and you've talked about it a little bit earlier, about listening to other people's opinions and other voices. And I think that, if you're producing a piece of art, whatever genre you're using, and you've been brought up or brought through it, it's like that sound or that little riff, or do you know what I mean? Is it going to be something that other people will like? You see, if you start to think that, when some people are very good at that, let's face it, there are some people who are extremely good at writing things that lots of people like. And I'm quite sure that those guys deliberately reject some of their own stuff because they've got another purpose, which is not just to be creative, but it's to make something. I mean, we see that all around us, don't we? In general society. I mean, you could go to Bond Street and buy the highest fashion, or you could go to Primark and buy like a t-shirt for £1. Still a t-shirt, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But the person that's designed it and made it has got something in mind. So I think you probably are an anomaly in the sense that that there aren't a lot of people maybe who are actually recognize that, because it's coming from who they are, that has value in itself. You know,
I hope people start to recognize that. And like, I don't know, Ghostface Killer has always like scared me. Like when he says like he doesn't want any MFs biting his style, like I took that seriously. Like I took that seriously. So, you know, I don't want Uncle Ghostface to get angry with me when I'm like trying to do this hip hop thing. So I can only, you know, for me, it was like, especially seeing people like Tribe Called Quest, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Far Side, like people that were just outlandish and different in hip hop.
Yeah, super personality driven in it, like massively individual characters and just crazy. Not like a monogamous. Thinking about thinking about monotonous. You know, recycled rap characters where you've got. I imagine it like when you go into a toy store and you've got the little action figures and you've got the same figure wearing a red cape or holding a spear, or they've got the sword and shield version, or this one's got like Battle Cat or something like that. That's what it's like in a rap game sometimes, but the period you're talking about, mega unique individuals expressing who they are, isn't it?
Yeah, man. It's like when Busta Rhymes came out with Ruha. It was all colorful. He had the big dreads, and it was just all animated and just all over the place and stuff. That was the moment where it was like, right, okay, cool. He's wacky and zany. Do you know what I mean? He reminds me of the Animaniacs. I love the Animaniacs. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm gonna just like work on trying to figure out who I am. What is my voice? I can't do the whole shooty bang bang. Like, it's not me. Like I'm a teddy bear when it comes to that stuff. So there's no point, you know. Like I don't know. I always felt like I don't know. Like Wu-Tang had a really like profound effect on me when it came to the whole like just be yourself like mantra that they had. You know, just be yourself and that will be appreciated. They weren't clean cut. They were so rough around the edges. They weren't perfect at all, but their rawness is what everybody appreciated. And that's what I take from everything, you know, from, you know, Wu-Tang Clan to Jeff Buckley to the Deftones to Rod Stewart. It's like all these people that they're not perfect, but they've got such sincerity in what they're doing that you can't help but be drawn to it, you know. And that's what, if there's anything that I hope to achieve, do you know what I mean? It's that, at least, you know, if anyone listens to me, then they can at least say like, yeah, that sounds like that's him. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't sound like anybody else. Like, and I believe is what he's saying. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever it is that I'll be talking about. So yeah. Sorry, getting a bit sentimental.
It's interesting. I was just thinking when you were talking that it sounds like because you've had this supportive upbringing in music where lots of people create, you're creating as a family, as an individual. You've got strong role models in your brothers and sisters, your parents, the community is encouraging you and seeing you and hearing you and allowing you to explore that side of yourself. Yes. Whereas I think sometimes you get this idea where you might go to music lessons and then you do a concert and everybody looks at you. But performance wasn't part of a day-to-day routine. Yeah. So when you're practicing on your own, you're in a room, you might be a nerdy kid, introvert. That's me doing the piano. I'm wiggling my fingers, by the way, for listening as a podcast listener rather than watching the video of this podcast. I'm wiggling my fingers on a piano. But basically, when you've got a whole generation upon generation of people who are told, don't show off, don't act loud, don't try and be the center of attention. And then you're saying, nerdy quiet kid who's got exceptional talent in music, now go out and shout out about your skill in front of everybody. It can't contradict what your what your messaging is, but you've had a nurturing, supportive musical upbringing, so that natural love for what you do sounds like it's been instilled by a healthy set of values around honoring people's creativity, which not everybody has the blessing
But
to have had.
I think when you say, you know, if you have been brought up in that environment where don't show off, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, where that's coming from is not really understanding, I think, the true nature of what our relationships and community should be about, because I think we should respect the fact that every single individual not only should have the right, but should be nurtured to say something, to express who they are and what they think. You know, I mean, I for 5 years of my life, I was working for the Disability Rights Commission, and we were working with people who had a wide range of physical and mental disabilities. And I was myself quite shocked and surprised at the weight and the depth of understanding and things that people could say coming from, you know, individuals who could barely move and had lived most of their life in a wheelchair, people that couldn't see, people that couldn't hear, people who had no memory, who couldn't remember what they said 5 minutes ago. And yet I had conversations and developed relationships with a wide range of people with all of those things. And every single one of them had something valuable to teach me.
Yes.
So it's really important that, you know, so when someone's saying don't show off, it's not because you're showing off. It's actually, you've got a voice, you've got a place. You need to be heard. We need to hear you. You know, it's giving space so that everyone can be who they are in front of us, because actually, you know, do we know it all? Do we not need to hear from you? Should you just sit in the corner and look the other way? I mean, that's not right, is it?
No. I mean, full of quotes. What is it? A wise man knows that he knows nothing at all.
Oh, Dilly.
Yeah. I had some like, but it's true though. It's like there was so many people that I would meet along the way that would tell me these little things. And at the time, I wouldn't really get it, but then over time, getting older, I'd start to understand it and I'd take value in it. Do you know what I mean? Like another one is, there's always a prick in a bunch of roses. You know what I mean? Being, no matter where you go, whether it's good or like, there's always going to be bad parts everywhere. There's always going to be bad parts everywhere. It's just being able to what it's how you deal with these bad parts is, you know, the journey of it all, the beauty of it all. If you could, especially if you can take that prick and make him part of the rose bunch, do you know what I mean? So he's part of something beautiful, you know. That's the journey. That's the beauty of it all, really and truly. It's taking these things that seem like cliches, seem like really simple, do you know what I mean? Like throwaway things, but they do end up holding so much value when you experience enough to really be able to understand what they mean. And I feel like I've had a lot of people, good and bad, young and old, be able to drop a lot of these jewels on me. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to like take the time to understand them and really take value out of them. And that, because there's a lot of things that people have said where I've just been talking rubbish. It's never going to be like that. And I get older and like,
yeah, it's the thing with youth, isn't it? You always think, I know everything. I know what to do, how to do it, and then guaranteed every little tip or trick my parents gave me, even down to like how to put your socks together as a unit in a pair.
Yep.
You know, when you tie them in a knot, that's, you know, that's all cool. You're not stretching any elastic anywhere. If you sort of scrunch them up and fold them in on yourself, you can like make the top of the socks loose. And I remember my older sister said, "Oh, don't put your socks away like that. You'll ruin the elastic." I was like, "Oh, what does she know? I've got this sock stuff locked down, mate. 20 years I've been making socks into pairs." But yeah, once I went to university and started sorting out all my socks, by the end of university, none of my socks would stay up my ankles.
Can I ask you a question?
You just blow my mind.
My mind's a bit blown as well, to be honest, with the sock metaphor.
Yeah, forget all the mental health conversation. We need to edit that out and just make the people on sock unification more.
That's great. So, now I want to ask you the question that now, you obviously you feel, lucky. You said you consider yourself extremely lucky to be here now and to have, learned a lot of these things. So when you encounter, people, and I guess, even in the place that you're living there with all the different people that live there, is there like, is there a kind of, let me put this right, do you feel like that you're here to share what you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
like undoubtedly, especially within the last sort of 4 years, like it's slowly but surely been growing. Like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to, like, the more time goes on, the more and more I'm like, right, holding in this knowledge. No, it's just no, it can't be done, whether it's to do with mental health, whether it's to do with music, whether it's to do with the music industry, whether it's to do with pitfalls, pros, cons, whatever. We live in a world where people are so told, like, nah, I've got this method to success. I want to keep it to myself.
Yeah,
I don't want anyone else to use it. And
You know
what I mean? It's just like, but it like each one teach one. Like, like the whole time, my Jamaican people, that each one teach one. Do you know? Like, that means so much. Like, I get more gratification out of being in service to people rather than feeling like I'm entitled to anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not entitled to anything, but if I can help in any, whether it's a song that makes someone feel better about the day, whether it's a quote, whether it's just something funny that I've put up, because the one rule is you should have one big belly laugh a day. That's the rule. That's the rule for good mental health. One big belly laugh a day. Like, if you have that, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Like,
I've got the big belly.
Yeah, right. Make it jiggle with joy, with joy and laughter and like good feelings and upliftment. Just like give that belly a good jiggle. Do you know what I mean? Like, do it. It will make you feel amazing. Just things like we have to let it out. Like this whole, not to use conservative buzzwords, but this whole conservatism, do you know what I mean, of either self or knowledge, or do you know what I mean, whether it's your insecurities or even your light, like what we were talking about before, like don't stand out, be the same as everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Just blend in. You just want to fit in. You don't want to you just want to fit in. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we're constantly beaten down by those kind of things on a daily basis, then over time it was just like the more I let out, the better I felt, and I would see that the better other people felt through me letting these things out. The amount of messages that I would get, thank you for just talking. There's so much I related to in your video, your podcast, and your status. Like, just thank you for just talking. Do you know what I mean? Thank you for just putting it out there for people to hear. And that makes me feel so much better, because there's always that self-doubt that's in me. Like, will people get this status? Will people will people get this video? Will they even take the time to really listen to this podcast? You never know. You never know unless someone turns around and tells you, like, I got some sort of value, whether it's a little bit or large. I got some sort of value out of it, and that is enough for me. That's enough for me.
I'd like to ask you. Sorry, I'm hijacking this.
No, knock yourself out. Like, I've chatted to Dilly quite a bit, so it's good. It's good for you to take the lead, because there's lots of other people who don't have that access to this human being, this incredible human being. And
Yeah.
I'll probably talk about assumptions that I've already made and skip forward on stuff, but you'll go into the roots.
Well, yeah, what I'm interested in, because it's a kind of, I mean, whether this is a myth or not, I don't know, but I think it is something that's true. We're aware of, for example, you know, when people go and see difficult situations, people in difficult situations in other countries, and I'm thinking about the underdeveloped world, you know, Africa, and you always hear that, you know, it's difficult. People are struggling through trying to get through each day, but you always also get this idea that actually, you know, they're happy when they get something, you know, and that the mental health, if you like, of people in that situation seems to be way better than the mental health of people in countries like the developed world, you know. And I was having this discussion the other day in our church, actually, and we were talking about the idea that because very few people, or a very small number of people, we're not really in a survival mode in this country, are we? We're not. We know we're going to get through the day. We know we can get food somewhere. Pretty much most of us know we've got a roof over our heads, and we've got a network of people. So we're not just surviving here. We are in a kind of richer society, but where survival is the main mode of operation for people, there seems to be a difference in the way people are in relation to what's actually there. So can that gap be bridged? Is there a key, you know, that we can utilize or use, you know, because I think what I'm thinking about here is particularly the young people who are growing up in this environment that we're in. And you know, I remember I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I don't remember that, you know, I'm not saying there weren't mental health issues amongst kids, of course there was, but I don't think it was as intense and widespread as it is now. So what do you think about that?
I mean, in terms of like bridging the gap, we kind of are doing that in a sense of, you know, because of the internet. I feel like the internet is a blessing and it is a curse. I've been able to grow and learn so much through speaking to people on other sides of the world, from different parts of the world, whether it's through playing games on Xbox or, you know, being in a Discord server, do you know what I mean, with loads of people that have joined up, or being on Clubhouse, where it's like a sort of convention type app where people can speak about things that are going on in the world, and you can raise your hand to get brought up on stage and say your piece, kind of thing. Through all of these different YouTube, like all of these sort of different media platforms where anybody can speak. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's what kind of helps to sort of bridge that gap. And like sort of, there's been a lot of times where, so as an example, recently I've been getting sort of metaphorical kidney digs, kidney punches, because I've been sort of corrected on assumptions and misconceptions that I've made about the world and the people in this world around me. Everywhere is not like the UK, no matter how much I want to think like it is, because it's easy to think like that. Everywhere is not like the UK. So on Clubhouse, I joined a room where Black women from all around the world were talking about their experiences to do with racism and domestic violence. And the biggest thing for me was, it didn't matter where you were in the world. If you were like black, like the darkest shade, you were experiencing the worst in terms of mistreatment, racism, violence and things like that. But as you said, it was those same people that were so optimistic and so like forward thinking and progressive and positive. There was a lot of hurt and resentment and pain behind some of the words that they were saying, which is understandable given what they've gone through. But there was still that element of hope and a vision of change. Do you know what I mean? And you could hear the sort of elation and relief in their voices through them talking their experiences and being in a place where other people could understand and relate, not in the exact same way, but they could relate. Like a woman from the Gaza Strip, do you know what I mean, who's living in a worn, torn area, do you know what I mean, lots of destruction, buildings broken down, speaking on experiences, similar experiences that I know females in this first world country have gone through. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like anxiety, in terms of sexual abuse and things like that. Like we're so similar. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. But it's through people talking, through people using tools like the internet to talk about these stories, to help get these stories out there. I feel like that's what's going to help bridge the gap. Do you know what I mean? Between and it really showed me like, okay, there's a lot that I really don't need to worry about, like in my situation. Like instantly, it's like, I could be in a very, very worse off position than I am now.
That's very humble of you to recognize that, and it shows humility, where sometimes a little bit too quick to put ourselves down for having an opportunity, and it's not our choice that we've come here in this time or space or where we were born or which parents we were blessed or cursed with, you know. So what we've done partly without choice. So if you do end up living in a, you know, like say for example in supported accommodation, you didn't ask to have those negative experiences which took you into this journey. And like if you were living in a country like India where my parents are from, there's just no you know concept unless there's like a charity NGO delivering something that was supportive, you know what I mean? But like, sometimes you get burnt in life and then you get like imposter syndrome because you've actually got access to care. Like I work with Ben as a volunteer, right? One of the things that I do is run Doggasm, my charity now. So I'm giving food and we're collecting money for them. So there's been occasions where I've had no work, I've had no income, and I've been really struggling to buy food. You know, I'm a freelance artist. When your work goes in ebbs and flows with the tide, and then you have a pandemic as well. You know what I mean? It's not like we're living in plush, you know, swimming pool mansions and that with loads of spared cash. So it
speak for yourself.
He's dapper Donny over here. Yeah, it's just like you can feel guilty for having access to things that can help. So I've been to volunteer with Ben because I had some spare hours. I'm not doing anything, so I've been distributing stuff or picking up crates. And then Ben said, "Oh, you can take some food home, whether I was in poverty or not."
Yeah.
He wouldn't know, right? So he'd say, "Oh, take a food." We give every volunteer the opportunity to take some food with them because you're donating some time. So we're giving an exchange. You give time, we give food, or toiletries or whatever. And I was all like, "No, I'm giving. I don't want to take from this, you know, homeless charity. Like some homeless person could be eating that pot noodle." But then when Ben was explaining how you deserve to have something too, and it doesn't mean that you have to be poor to have this. This is a gift that we're giving to everybody because it was going to go into landfill and it's saving the environment. So it's for everybody, whether you're a rich volunteer or a poor volunteer. It's the principle behind it. So yeah, I want to just reach out to listeners. You know, you deserve support. You deserve help. Don't think that if you're going through a crisis, I don't get this wrong. I'm not preaching at you, listeners. I've done this myself. We're in a pandemic. I'm having a mental health crisis. I can deal with it. I've been there before. I don't want to clog up the waiting list. There's somebody else that might need some support. There's other people who don't know how to manage their mental health. But it's not something that you can just take control of by yourself all the time. You know what I mean? If you need help, you need help. You've got broken leg, you need a cast. There's no doubt it's not just going to get better. Do you know what I mean? So if you do feel like there's changes in your behavior and you're not sure whether to ask for help, then you have every right to help and support to get you feeling like your everyday kind of self.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's really important. I mean, the balance that I think that needs to be struck here is that because we're aware that there are other people in the rest of the world that are experiencing suffering maybe worse than we are, right? Does not take away our own needs and what we need. And of course, you know, so you're right to say, you know, humility is the right word to recognize that you may be, you know, under more grace, if you like, in your life than other people, but nevertheless, right, when you need something and you need support and you're short of something, it's not a reason to like. And to be honest with you, I think this is something which, I mean, I'm not born in this country. My parents don't come from this country. But I've grown up in the culture, and this is something which is this kind of like you know, the British stiff upper lip, which is a kind of seeps into you when you spent years and years here, and it's not very helpful. It is.
Don't ask for things. Don't say that you're feeling down. Just look all right, and then just carry on. And even if you're exploding inside, then you've got to say you're okay. Who said that?
Well, you know, this is
slap your bitch ass up.
Well, but this is also historical, isn't it? This is a historical context, and I think if we, but I think it's an important point as well, because also we're in a time now where we look back, let's say, on the colonial past of this country, and all over the world, you know, people will look at not just this country, but you know what happened when the colonial powers were at their height. You know, and then see what happened in America when, you know, America wanted to break free from the grip of the European powers. I do think that sometimes, you know, the culture and the people were different. So it's really, really hard to say, go back in time and say, well, they shouldn't have done what they did, et cetera, and we can condemn them all we like. But we weren't there. We don't know what the prevailing culture was. And, you know, imagine if that culture was there at those times, and those people were, you know, the well stuck into this, like, nothing wrong with me. I'm just going to, you know, do what I'm told to do. And, you know, I will obey my superiors. You kind of understand why things happened the way they did, you know. So I think that we've got to recognize that we grow up within a culture that includes our parents and grandparents, etc., because that's always a topic of conversation in the house. I mean, if you've been brought up in care, what is the culture? You know, because actually you don't have any of that history, and so something has to replace it, and maybe it's the culture of the society. So, you know, I'm sure you've come across this, but I think that we all have what I'd call a cultural pathology, which actually influences our every thought and action. And it's important for us to try and recognize that in ourselves, break down those things, deconstruct ourselves.
It's very hard.
It's
very hard
course,
because you see it as natural in yourself, and it's
course,
you need a process of reflection, like an opportunity to step back. And I think that's where writing helps, because you can deconstruct. When you write something on the page, it's a surprise, or it might be something that's been brewing for you. Either way, once it's on the page, it's external to yourself, so you can notice things.
Absolutely. And that process is absolutely important for us as individuals in this society. And I actually think, in fact, just even talking about it, I'm thinking that this is actually the challenge of those of us who are in developed countries. Because in those countries where survival is the main mode, you don't have the luxury of, in fact, you can't, because actually you have to focus on what's going to get you through the day. You know? Whereas because we don't have to focus on that, it gives us an opportunity to investigate the cultural context of us as individuals and the society
Yeah.
we're in. And we
Yeah.
should be loud about what we think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it
Mm-hmm.
should be put out there, because if, you know, we who are probably in the top 10-15% of lifestyles of people in the world, if we can't be honest enough and humble enough to challenge ourselves and be challenged, who else can?
Mm-hmm. 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 No, seriously. I wholeheartedly agree. And like, even going back to your beginning point of, you know, it's all relative. Everyone's issues and problems are relative to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no getting around that. Like, there's no sort of, there's just isn't any way of getting around that. But what can be taken from it though is being able to learn from somebody else's situations, learn from somebody else's mistakes, whether they're big mistakes or bad mistakes, whether it's from looking at an underdeveloped country and seeing, oh, okay, well, at least my situation isn't as bad as that. So what can I do therefore? Do you know what I mean? Like even for them in developed countries, okay, you know, it's the famous saying that the only way is up. If this is as bad as it gets, then the only way is up, and we can strive for things to get better from here. You know, like, I think when we get stuck too much in being surrounded by, well, it's just bad, well, it's just going to be like this, you know, what can you do? It's just life. It's just the way of the world. Like, I think that's what ends up like bringing people to the point of just like, well, everything's just horrible. Do you know what I mean? There's no encouragement even from society, like, especially when it's drilled into you to do everything on your own. Don't need no help, don't ask for no help, you can do it. To be self-sufficient. You know what I mean? You know, almost Mr. T, like, I ain't getting on no plane.
I ain't getting no help.
You know what I
I
mean?
ain't
Like,
asking for no counselor, fool.
do you know what I mean? But if you don't ask for help, then how are you actually going to progress? You've got to ask for help at some point. You've got to learn from something at some point. But you also have to recognize that everything is relative. Your obstacle that you have to get round is your obstacle that you have to get round. And no one else is going to be able to help you get round it as efficiently as you asking for that help yourself. You know?
Well, I want to add something to that, because and this will be probably moving towards closing our discussion now.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be one of our last points. People transmit experiences through stories, poems, art.
Yes.
Wisdom of elders gets carried through song, story. When you get moral tales, like you get rap songs from an elder talking to a younger, their method of managing an obstacle and pursuing their goal can be shared. So over the time that humanity have been expressing through song and story, the patterns emerge around standard things that people get upset about, worried about. Somebody dies, you're going to get upset. Somebody has a kid, you're going to get happy. That's human. From the beginning of time to the end of time, that will be human, right? You're going to see loss as a sorrow, and, you know, new life as a joy, hopefully. Where you've got stories from around the world, they represent these human processes through the types of characters and events that they go through. So all human stories have characters that can be considered resonant, or, you know, examples and extenuations, extensions of each other. So, like, for example, when a character is going through like a series of events in their narrative journey, there might be a helper and there might be like a shadow figure. So, like, you know, Batman's Penguin and Batman's Joker, but in Joker's world, he's the hero and everybody else is the bad guy. Batman's the baddie. So when you look at an obstacle in the stories, there are points in the stories where a character will come up with an obstacle, and it's a metaphor, an extended metaphor, like an allegory, where it's giving you some knowledge from your elders and ancestors on how to negate the boundary, to negate the stress, to take the smoothest, safest passage through the obstacle, right? So like there's a point where you have to depart from what's known and leap into the unknown and go and risk everything to get what you need, right? When you step out, so when you step out of your comfort zone, whether it's like, oh, I'm not going to try for that job as a manager because I've never been a manager before. Every manager had that at one point. Like little babies don't go, oh, I'm not going to go on two feet. I've never been on 2 feet before. They just get on their 2 feet because that's what they're programmed to do. Part of their journey, isn't it? To survive as adults, you have to start 2 feet action, not 2 feet and 2 hands action. So in the stories, when you get to the obstacle, like you're in the cave mouth, you don't know what's in there, but you know there's a dragon, but you know there's the secret ninja scroll with the history of how hip hop is therapeutic. You know what I mean? To grab out of the doom, you need that. You've got to make an assessment about whether the payoff to go in the dark is more rewarding. And even if you have a choice or not, then just staying where you are, right? Because you're never going to move forward. If you need that ninja scroll, or you need that elixir, or you need those golden, magical beans. Just staying where you are, you're just going to wither and die. So you have to go forward. So what characters are the way that they'll face their obstacles, whether it's like a guardian who's roaring at the mouth of the cave, like they can like try and get through the legs when it's not looking. They can wait till it's asleep. They can go head on in battle, or they can try and trick it. You know what I mean? So then when you look at life, okay, my boss is being annoying. I need to win a promotion. I need to get through that obstacle. Shall I just act like them and put on a persona? Be like them. Be who they want me to be, so that my persona can be fluid for me to sidestep the obstacle and get to the promotion. Then once I'm in my promotion, I can be, more autonomous and I won't have that person's control. Or do I fight my boss, get a lawyer, talk about them, to senior staff, get them called out with a grievance? Do I take it head on? Then you're maybe going to create some friction day to day. You know what I mean? Or you could slip through the legs while they're not looking. If they go on holiday, you could just steal the job. Do you know what I mean? So these stories transmit the knowledge that we can use as a guide. And I'm saying, what I'm saying in Hip Hop Heals, in Glow with the Flow podcast, is you, the MC, are giving us ways to manage our obstacles, stories on how to be, stories on how to get better, and stories of things to avoid.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's like a knowledge bank, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, and it's born of experience, isn't it? I mean, obviously, we're speaking to Dilligent Finger today.
Diligent fingers. Sorry, it's not just got one finger that's diligent.
It's not just one of him, there's 10 of him.
8 actually, darling, 2 are thumbs.
Well, the thumbs are kind of included, but they happen to be more, they can go and rotate in more directions, can't they? So two of his digits are out of this world. But all I'm saying is that speaking to MCs, every person has learned something in their journey and have managed to impart something, not just to us, but obviously through their music and through their lyrics. And it is actually amazing to me, as probably a little bit of a fish out of water, that so many people have been impacted so positively by this genre and by writing lyrics and making beats and putting them together. And it is an amazing thing. Obviously, Kiz, you're the one that introduced me to this, and having spoken to like those guys across the pond and seeing the amazing work that's going on in cities across the world.
The hip hop therapists, you mean?
Yeah. We need that here in England. We need it in Birmingham, because it's clear that it is a really positive step for people, for those without voices, for those who feel they don't have a voice, for those who feel as if they should just sit in the corner and be quiet and conform. No, we need to hear the crying and the shouting and the pain and the agony and the positivity and good ideas from the people who are being ignored, basically, who are told, like, you know, we don't need you, we won't want you. Sorry, we do. We need you, we want you, we want to hear what you've got to say. And that applies, I mean, everywhere.
Yes.
To everyone. So
Yes.
so this is a fantastic thing to be doing. And if I had 3 words to describe all of it, I would say, don't touch this.
Most definitely. No. Hold tight the hams. Hold tight the hams, Uncle Hams.
On that note, back to the D to the F. Can you give us a couple of your bars then? Things that might be an inspiration for others to go create. Something with a positive message, something that can give people a little bit of a boost.
See, I was told, never follow fashion with the passion. And I realized the moment I saw every raver clapping. See, I never thought I'd ever make it rapping. Now I'm holding potent rings as if I'm satin. See, I'm the captain, stuck where hell and heaven's overlapping, underwater waging war with every kraken, laughing. Because I'm a handful even when I've done my backing. But when I'm done, I'm jumping back in, trust me. You think I'm just chatting? I've never needed anyone to give me any backing. That's why I try to recognize the patterns and make up for the things I'm really lacking. Still, I get it cracking. Yeah, you can call me black magic, but I don't need the voodoo that you do to get the stacks in. Yeah, I try to master every facet. It took time. Now I'm blasting through the static. Get me?
Oh,
that's brilliant.
microphone club.
Love it. Fantastic.
It was like you were just talking to us. I was like, is it literally? I was thinking, are these his bars or is Dilly still chatting? And that's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. There's a Bollywood actor called Dilip Kumar, and you're like the Dilip Kumar of the hip hop world in the UK, the MC world in the UK.
I'm on it.
I kind of just want to take this moment to say thank you for sharing what you did. You went and shared some really deep personal parts of your story, and I know that can be hard, and you talked about really troublesome experiences in the past. So I want to use this opportunity to say from myself and Glow with the Flow podcast, it's been a blessing for us to be able to talk with you. I hope that your path offers you smooth passage, and
so too.
support is there for everybody. If you need some support, reach out. You know, you could phone the Samaritans, you could talk to a trusted friend, you could contact a charity or an organization online, you could go to the doctor. But whatever suits you, make the most of the resources that are out there. And if you're in that zone where you need to just stay in the duvet for 10 hours a day, then that's all good. But let people in also to help you to get the strength to move a little bit. And don't go it alone, basically.
Yes, most definitely. And try your hardest to fight back as much of the guilt that can come from like these situations as you possibly can. Yes, you may feel guilty about not answering the phone, or not like feeling like you've not gone to the right place. What's more important is that you're taking the steps to take care of you. That's the important thing. Everything else will come with time, as long as you're taking the time to be patient with yourself and to not feel guilty about things that you're going through.
You exist in this world.
Yes.
You were born. You're alive now. Whatever you believe, and that's down to you, you were made to be loved.
Most definitely, wholeheartedly. Some nice positive little tidbits to end on. I like it.
Yeah. And let's boost up that positivity with a song from you then, Mr. DF. Can you give us a little track introduction, and then we will play an amazing banger for our listeners.
Okay, so this is my version of a popular freestyle that's out at the moment called Lemon Pepper Freestyle. And it's just a track about self-affirmation, realizing realizations about the world, about people, about myself, and just affirming what I'm actually in this for and what is true to me, which I hope everyone can relate to. So
yeah, bless up, Dilly, bless up, man. Long may you live and prosper, my friend. Yeah, can we just let the listeners know where to find you online, and how do you spell your artist name?
It's Dilligent, DILI, 1L, GENT, fingers, FINGERS. And I used to be really cheeky and just say, you can Google me, because I put a lot of work into making sure my name comes up when you Google me. But yeah, no, Instagram is probably going to be the best place to find me. Dilligent Fingers on Instagram or Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, but I really don't like Facebook anymore.
Yeah, don't get him on Facebook. Don't find him on Facebook. What about your podcast?
I'm there, but I'm not really there. And then in terms of my podcast, Instagram would be the best place. I'd shout and scream about my podcasts and everything that I'm doing music wise and things like that, on there. So yeah.
Big up, man. Thank you so much. Here's the track, guys. Bless up and have an amazing day, night, morning, or whatever it is. Peace.
Great to talk to you. Fantastic.
Thank you. You too.
Big love, big love.